in the waning light of a cool autumn evening, when the golden hues of the sun melted into the horizon, a small town in rural America lay cradled by dense forests and meandering creeks. In this town lived a young girl named Emily, whose heart was as gentle as the whispering winds, and whose eyes shimmered with a quiet curiosity about the world. Unbeknownst to her, destiny had a strange and heart-wrenching story in store, one that would intertwine her life with that of a wild creature, a bobcat, a fateful encounter. Emily was 10 years old, with a spirit that danced between the realms of dreams and reality. Every day after school, she would escape into the woods behind her house, where tall trees formed a natural cathedral, and the rustling leaves narrated age-old secrets. On one such day, as the fading daylight gave way to the encroaching twilight, Emily stumbled upon a sight that would forever alter the course of her life. Nestled in a secluded glade was a small, trembling bobcat kitten. Its fur was mottled with shades of tawny brown and dark streaks, and its luminous eyes were filled with a mixture of fear and longing. The creature's body bore the marks of a recent struggle, a few deep scratches, and a limp that hinted at pain and suffering. Moved by compassion, Emily slowly approached the fragile animal, speaking to it in soft, soothing tones, as if assuring it that it was safe. Despite the creature's initial wariness, something in Emily's voice sparked a glimmer of trust. The bobcat, whom she later named Whisper for the quiet sound its paws made on the forest floor, allowed her to gently stroke its fur. In that silent moment, the bond between human and animal was forged, a bond that would defy the boundaries of nature and circumstance, healing wounds and forming a bond. Emily's parents, though initially hesitant about their daughter's growing attachment to a wild animal, eventually recognized the profound kindness in her actions. With careful guidance, they allowed Emily to care for Whisper under the supervision of a local wildlife rehabilitator. Days turned into weeks, and as Whisper's physical wounds slowly mended, a deeper emotional healing began to take shape. Emily would spend hours by the bobcat's side, reading stories and sharing her secrets. In return, Whisper would nuzzle against her hand, its purr-like growls resonating with a language of silent gratitude. Their companionship blossomed in the heart of the forest. In the quiet mornings, the duo would embark on gentle explorations through dew-laden trails, where birds chirped greetings and the rustling underbrush hid the footprints of many unseen creatures. The forest, with all its mysteries and beauty, became a living canvas for their shared adventures. Yet, beneath this serene tableau lurked the inevitable truth of life's impermanence. Whisper, though growing stronger with each passing day, remained a creature of the wild, a being whose spirit was meant to roam free. Emily, however, clung to every moment with an intensity that belied her tender age, unwilling to face the possibility of separation. The weight of reality. As summer yielded to autumn, the time for Whisper's release grew near. The local wildlife experts, noticing the bobcat's remarkable recovery, declared that the time had come for the creature to return to its natural habitat. The decision left Emily with a heavy heart. She had grown inseparable from her furry friend, whose presence had filled a void in her life, a void that echoed with the warmth of unconditional companionship and the unspoken promise of loyalty. The day of the release arrived with a cold mist that veiled the forest in melancholy. Emily, accompanied by her parents and the wildlife rehabilitator, made her way to a remote clearing deep in the woods. The atmosphere was charged with a bittersweet tension. Every crunch of leaves underfoot resonated like the ticking of a clock, counting down the final moments of their shared intimacy. Kneeling by Whisper's makeshift enclosure, Emily's eyes brimmed with tears as she whispered heartfelt goodbyes. "You're free now," she murmured, her voice trembling with sorrow and pride. The rehabilitator gently coaxed Whisper forward, and with one last look that seemed to capture the essence of their bond, the bobcat stepped into the wild. Emily reached out, her small hand trying in vain to grasp the fading warmth of a companion who was, at that moment, becoming a part of the untamed wilderness. The echo of loss. In the days following the release, Emily wandered the woods, hoping for a glimpse of Whisper's familiar form. Every rustle of the leaves, every distant call of a wild animal, ignited a flutter of hope in her heart. But as weeks turned into months, the forest grew quieter, and the echoes of Whisper's presence faded into the wind. Emily's initial optimism gave way to a profound sense of loss that seemed to permeate every aspect of her life. At school, her laughter became rarer, her eyes more distant. The vibrant girl who once eagerly recounted tales of secret forest hideaways was now a shadow of herself, consumed by memories of a time when every moment had been filled with wonder. In the quiet solitude of her room, she would pull out a tattered notebook and write down her memories. Each word a desperate attempt to capture the essence of the connection she had lost. One particularly cold evening, while the wind howled outside and the fire in the hearth struggled to keep the biting chill at bay, Emily found herself unable to sleep. Clutching the notebook to her chest, she scribbled out a letter addressed to Whisper. A letter filled with longing, regret, and a hope that perhaps, in some far-off part of the forest, her words might find their way to her lost friend. A twist of fate. Time, however, has a way of weaving unexpected threads into the tapestry of our lives. One winter morning, as Emily trudged through freshly fallen snow, she noticed an unusual set of paw prints leading toward a familiar thicket. Her heart raced with a mixture of fear and anticipation. Could it be? Summoning all her courage, she followed the trail deep into the forest. After what felt like hours, Emily came upon a clearing she had never seen before. There, huddled against the biting cold, was a solitary bobcat. Its fur was now thick with winter's touch, and its eyes held a wild, haunting wisdom. As the creature moved, it left behind a trail of graceful, silent steps, each one a testament to the resilience of the wild. In that moment, Emily's heart skipped a beat. The bobcat was not Whisper, yet there was an undeniable similarity in the way it regarded her. The creature approached cautiously, and for a long, silent moment, the world seemed to hold its breath. Emily knelt down, her eyes brimming with tears that reflected both sorrow and a spark of hope. "I've missed you," she whispered, her voice barely audible over the rustling wind. The bobcat circled her slowly, its gaze penetrating yet gentle, as if it recognized the pain behind her words. In that fleeting encounter, a silent understanding passed between them, a recognition of shared solitude and the ache of a love lost. The bobcat lingered for a moment before disappearing into the vast expanse of the snowy forest. Though Emily knew in her heart that it was not the return of Whisper, the brief encounter filled her with a bittersweet comfort. It was as if the wild itself had reached out to remind her that some bonds, though transformed by time and circumstance, could never truly be severed. The road to acceptance. In the following months, Emily's journey through grief gradually shifted toward acceptance. Her visits to the forest became less about searching for what was lost and more about celebrating the memories that had shaped her. The woods, once a place of heartache, slowly revealed their dual nature, both a sanctuary for sorrow and a cradle of healing beauty. Emily began to notice the subtle signs of life that had taken root in the forest's winter slumber. The resilience of nature mirrored her own inner strength. Every budding leaf and every chirp of a returning bird reminded her that life, despite its heartbreaks, had a way of finding renewal. The pain of losing Whisper, though still ever present in the quiet recesses of her heart, gradually transformed into a tender remembrance rather than an all-consuming void. Her parents, too, saw the transformation. The once desolate glances and withdrawn silences gave way to moments of gentle laughter and shared recollections of the magical days in the forest. Emily's healing was not marked by grand gestures, but by the subtle, almost imperceptible shifts in her demeanor, a softening of the edges of grief a resilience that shone through in her quiet moments of reflection, a legacy of love and loss. Years passed, and Emily grew from a fragile child into a young woman whose eyes carried the depth of someone who had loved fiercely and lost deeply. She pursued studies in wildlife conservation, driven by the belief that every creature, no matter how wild or wounded, deserved a chance to thrive. The memory of Whisper and the lessons of the forest became the cornerstones of her life's work. Every time she encountered a bobcat in the wild, a part of her heart would ache with a familiar, tender sorrow. But that sorrow was tempered by gratitude, a recognition of the profound impact a wild creature had on a lonely soul. Emily came to understand that the beauty of life often lay in its impermanence, in the fleeting moments of connection that, though ephemeral, left an indelible mark on the heart. In time, Emily began to share her story with others. Through lectures, writing, and quiet conversations around the campfire, she spoke of the silent pause that had once graced her path, of the gentle eyes that had seen the unspoken sorrows of a lonely heart. Her words resonated with those who had known loss, offering comfort and a reminder that every ending carried within it the seeds of a new beginning. Epilogue. The unseen threads. On a crisp spring day, as Emily walked along a winding trail lined with blooming wildflowers, she paused by a gently bubbling brook. The sound of water over smooth stones was both a lullaby and a call to memories past. In that serene moment, she closed her eyes and could almost feel the soft brush of fur, the silent companionship of a creature who had once been her solace. The story of Emily and Whisper was one of home and loss, a tale woven into the very fabric of nature. It was a reminder that the wild was not merely a realm of danger and solitude, but also a sanctuary for fragile hearts seeking refuge. And though the bobcat had long since returned to the wild, its legacy lived on in the gentle spirit of a girl who had learned that every parting, however painful, made room for a deeper understanding of life's transient beauty. In the end, Emily realized that grief was not something to be conquered, but something to be embraced. A silent, enduring echo of love that resonated through every rustling leaf and every whisper of the wind. The forest, with its ever-changing tapestry of life, taught her that in the heart of every goodbye lay the promise of a new hello, however fleeting and elusive it might be. Thus, the silent pause of a lost soul continued to tread lightly upon the earth, leaving behind traces of love, hope, and the quiet assurance that some connections, once forged, never truly fade away.